What I'm about to tell you was never supposed to be known. The documents were sealed. The facility was destroyed. The people involved were silenced one by one over the following decades. What you are about to hear is the account of what happened inside a Soviet research facility in the autumn of 1947. I cannot tell you where I got this information. I can only tell you that it is real. Welcome to Classified Horror Files. Each episode, we open a file that was never meant to be found, a case that was buried, a story that someone desperately wanted forgotten. This is Episode 1, The Sleep Chamber. In the autumn of 1947, a team of Soviet researchers began an experiment that would never appear in any official record. The facility was underground, windowless, built somewhere in the forests east of Moscow. 5 subjects were selected. All of them were prisoners. All of them had been told that participation would result in their immediate release and full pardoning of their crimes. None of them were ever released. The premise of the experiment was straightforward on paper. The 5 subjects would be placed inside a sealed chamber. The chamber would be flooded with an experimental stimulant gas developed by the Soviet military, a compound designed to eliminate the need for sleep entirely. The subjects would remain awake for 30 days. 30 days without sleep. The researchers believed the gas would make this not only possible, but comfortable, that the subjects would remain alert, functional, cooperative. They were wrong about almost everything. The first 5 days were unremarkable. The subjects talked to each other through the intercom system the researchers had installed. They ate the food passed through the sealed compartment in the chamber wall. They exercised. They read the books that had been provided. They complained about the smell of the gas, which they described as metallic, almost like blood, but not quite. The researchers noted all of this carefully. Everything was proceeding as expected. On day 6, the tone of the conversations changed. The subjects stopped talking about ordinary things, their families, their lives before the facility, the food. They started talking about the other people in the chamber, quietly, intensely, in a way that made the researchers uncomfortable, without being able to explain exactly why. Subject 3, a man in his late 30s who had been the most talkative of the group in the first 5 days, stopped speaking entirely on day 6. He sat in the corner of the chamber facing the wall. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He just sat there, facing the wall, for 18 hours without moving. On day 8, Subject 2 began screaming. Not words, not sentences, just screaming. A continuous, unbroken sound that lasted for 3 hours before stopping as suddenly as it had started. When the researchers asked through the intercom what had happened, Subject 2 said nothing was wrong, said everything was fine, said he felt better than he ever had in his life. His voice sounded nothing like it had on day 1. On day 9, the researchers noticed that the food was no longer being eaten. All 5 subjects had stopped eating. When asked about this through the intercom, Subject 4, a young man who had been calm and cooperative throughout, leaned close to the microphone and whispered something that the recording equipment picked up, but that the researchers spent days arguing about afterward. He whispered, "We don't need it anymore." On day 12, Subject 1 tore out pages from every book in the chamber. He did this methodically, 1 page at a time, over the course of 6 hours. Then he arranged the pages on the floor of the chamber in a pattern that none of the researchers could identify or explain. When asked what he was doing, he didn't respond. He just kept arranging. On day 15, the microphones picked up a new sound from inside the chamber. It took the researchers 2 days to identify what it was. It was laughter, very quiet, very low, coming from all 5 subjects simultaneously, a sound that shouldn't have been possible given the positions of the subjects in the chamber. They were spread across different areas, and none of them appeared to be communicating with the others, but they were all laughing, the same laugh, at the same time. On day 18, subject 3, the man who had been sitting facing the wall since day 6, stood up. He turned around. The researchers who were watching through the observation window said that his expression was wrong, not in a way they could describe precisely, just wrong, like a face that had forgotten what faces were supposed to do. He walked to the center of the chamber. He looked up at the observation window directly. He couldn't have known exactly where it was. The glass was one way. He shouldn't have been able to see anything except his own reflection. But he looked directly at the researchers on the other side, and he smiled. Then he said, "We know you're watching." On day 20, the researchers made the decision to open the chamber and extract the subjects. The lead researcher gave the order to flood the chamber with fresh oxygen to begin clearing the stimulant gas. Through the intercom, he announced that the experiment was concluding and that the subjects would be released as promised. There was a long silence. Then subject 4 spoke. He said, "We don't want to stop." The researcher repeated that the experiment was over, that the chamber would be opened, that the subjects would be freed. Subject 4 said, "If you open that door, we will not let you close it again." The researchers proceeded anyway. 2 of them entered the chamber first. What they found inside was something that none of the official reports, the ones that don't exist, have ever fully described. The subjects were alive, all 5 of them, standing in a line facing the door. Their eyes were open. They had not slept in 20 days. And when the first researcher stepped inside, subject 3, the man who had been facing the wall, reached out and grabbed his arm. He leaned close to the researcher's ear. He whispered something. The researcher never told anyone what he heard. Not his colleagues, not his superiors, not his family in the years that followed. He resigned from the facility the following morning. He never worked in research again. He moved to a small town far from Moscow. He lived alone for the rest of his life. He died in 1989 at the age of 71. His neighbors said he never slept with the lights off, not once in 40 years. The chamber was sealed that same day. The remaining 4 subjects were left inside. The gas was increased to levels far beyond what the experiment had originally called for. The official record says the experiment never happened. The facility doesn't appear on any map. The 5 subjects don't appear in any prisoner records. But somewhere in the forests east of Moscow, there is a sealed underground chamber. And according to the documents I was given, the monitoring equipment inside it still picks up sound. Every night, between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., the same sound, every single night. Laughter, very quiet, very low, from all 5 of them at the same time. That was episode 1 of Classified Horror Files, The Sleep Chamber. The documents I was given contain 11 more files, 11 more cases that were buried, 11 more stories that someone desperately wanted forgotten. Episode 2 drops soon. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and leave a comment below. Do you think what happened in that chamber was real? Because the people who were there never answered that question. They just stopped talking about it entirely. Sleep well tonight, if you can.